It's so great to be here. I can't believe it, being here in Topeka West, being in Topeka. It's really great. I prepared a 5-hour Fidel Castro style speech here. If you'll enjoy that.
Yeah, we figured.
One thing I have to say, my pleasure of being on a platform with Phil Grecian is just such a special thrill. I love Phil. He's been a hero of mine since literally the 3rd or 2nd grade or so. He's only a year older than me, but he was already a star back then. And I remember, seriously, at Crestview School, the teachers filed us down to what was our auditorium. I think they called it a multi-purpose room. And there was Phil up on the stage, and he had his ventriloquist dummy, and it was astounding. It was astounding. We were, most of us, just sort of spacey, post-embryonic, like grade school kids, and here's this guy up here, so precocious, so brilliant, and way ahead of all of us. And he's maintained that pace for a lifetime, just constantly producing creative work. I have to catch up on stuff that he's done in the past, and he's still doing things all the time now. He's an amazing person, so I'm very honored to be around here with him. It's such a surprise for me. I can't to have this honor. Until Carl suggested it to me, I would never have imagined that this would have happened, and greatly appreciative and honored by that. I still can't quite believe it. I think I'm expecting somebody to come out of here and say, wait, not this guy. We need to get this guy here. But and I'm thinking, it's Sunday. Maybe the people who run this place don't even know we're here. But anyway, it's great. I think I went through Topeka West. I love Topeka West. All my life I've been able to value the good teachers that I had. I wish I could go back and find them all and tell them, because I did not appreciate them nearly enough at the time. But as I've gone through the rest of my life and been in different places and observed the state of education, the rest of the world and so forth, it's just increased my appreciation for this place. And a lot of that does go back to Dr. Owen Henson, who was, again, I had no idea at the time, but he was a brilliant organizer that set the school up, found all these very talented teachers and brought them here for us. So we were the beneficiaries of that without having any idea of it at the time. But it is fantastic to be here. I was like, I think I got through school without making any impression on anybody practically. I mean, I was like a very introverted person. My early experiences in life formed me that way, and I kind of stayed on that path. So I was very self-protective, and I did my things in private. And I love books. Spent most of my time with books, probably. That gave me it leads to one trying to express oneself in writing. And I always tried to do that. It was many years and thousands of pages before anything I wrote ever appeared. In fact, I didn't even really want people to see it because it was personal, and that was just a very private person. But at a certain point along there, I did discover that when the pen touched the page, it was like an electric current was set off, and it sort of ushered me into this other dimension, and I liked being in that dimension. So I just did it, and it led to these other things. It was the same with music. It was something that I did for myself. My father got me piano lessons and just gave me so much for that. And my mother was a great painter, so I watched her and learned a little then I had this very powerful urge for exploration all my life. I don't really know where that came from, but these were the things that I did on my own. I avoided attention. I tried to sort of stay in the shadows. I didn't really like having a lot of focus on me. But when I had a time that I needed to make a living, I would use whatever I had. And those were things that I had spent so much time on. I developed some skill in, so that helped me do that. But I think since Carl first approached me and told me about this, and I was like, no, I don't think this is appropriate. I'm thinking, Kerry Livgren, how am I going to stand up in a place, where he stood, or, any of these other people. I didn't even know Phil Grecian was going to be here at that time. I probably would have been intimidated by that. But I look back, it caused me to do a lot of soul searching to sort of figure out what's the contradiction here between what Carl is presenting to me about myself and the way I function. And I realized that in my early years, I just developed this hidden sort of way of being. It all tends to go back to the seminal event in my life and my sister's life was when our parents split up when we were about 7, or I was about 7. And we were in Kansas at that time. It was still very unusual to have a divorced family. I didn't know anyone from a divorced family for years after that. So that set us apart a little bit. And then my mother was English, so when my father left, we were just a little English household in Topeka, and the outside world was as foreign to me as we were to it, I think. And so all of these things tended to make me just be a reclusive sort of person. And at a certain point, I was telling Phil last night, my sister and I were in Dale Easton's drama class back in the 50s. He every 6 weeks we would do a little show and then go back and work another 6 weeks for the next show. And one time soon after the divorce, my mom's like fixing my collar for me, getting ready to go to this thing, and she says, "Well, you're the man of the house now." And I was like, "Well, I was like 8 years old, and it wasn't so long ago I was sitting on Daddy's knee, and all of a sudden now I'm the man of the house," which I think at the time she was probably thinking this boosts his self-esteem, which I think it did have that effect. But it also had the effect of causing my childhood to just sort of evaporate immediately. So I had a different, I just knew that I had a different point of view than the other kids that I knew. I could tell by the way they responded to things. So those are the kinds of things that sort of I felt set me apart and made me very secretive and private. Let me see here. There were actually advantages from this. It's not a sad story. I actually had a nice, really nice time growing up in Topeka, and you adjust to these situations like divorces and so forth, and then you move ahead. And advantages that I had. One thing I noticed was that my musical memory goes back, it seems to me, farther than most of my contemporaries when I speak to them. And I think the reason for that is partly because when our father left and we experienced what to us was the great heartbreak, it was a thing that most people go a little longer in their lives before they experience that. But once you have experienced that, then I understood those songs when they were singing about heartbreak, and I connected with them, and they were very comforting to me, and I held them close to myself. I couldn't buy them all, and the radio would play a popular song for a while, and then it would fade away, and you'd lose it. So I just basically memorized all these songs, and it gave me a basis just to this facility of just being able to memorize lots of songs. So that was a value. The being a person who sort of shuns the spotlight is it's good for being a reporter, for example. I like to be the person asking the questions. I like the spotlight to be on the other person. And so, the fly on the wall mentality. So that was an advantage. And anyone who wants to write, you have to become comfortable with solitude. So that was perfect. Being introverted and having that kind of work, and it brings it around to, again, thanking Dr. Carl here for giving me this recognition for things that I did basically in a solitary way. And to get this kind of recognition is very opposite to the way they were done. But it's put me through a big change, because my initial impulse as a sort of introverted person, when Carl suggested this, was like, oh, I don't think so, but there's other people that are much more appropriate for this. But Carl is a strong person, if you know Carl, he's got the shot putter arms, and and he was like, no, you're wrong, you are appropriate for this. So it caused me to do a lot of soul searching to sort of resolve that contradiction there and get to this point. And I think that it put me on another stage of life, in a sense that it made me understand better than before that being shy and hiding away from people is not necessarily such a good thing, and that kind of modesty, I think, is a false modesty. And there was a phrase, you hear these phrases when you're growing up, and they're just words and they're sounds and don't really mean anything to you, and then at a certain point something becomes clear to you, as if it was written however long ago just for you. But I remember this thing of Jesus saying, don't hide your light behind a bushel. Let your light so shine before men so that they will see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. So I just realized that we all have an obligation to give something back for all that we have been given. And it really isn't good to hide that. It's better, to go ahead and bring it out and try to do something for the world while you still have a few minutes left. So, and I've found that as we've reached this stage, my contemporaries and I think we value each other more. We value the gift of life more, and we value kindness more. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your kindness in presenting me with this. So thank you.